Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. Today I'm joined by Sean Deely, Chief Engineer here at Sweetwater Studios. We are looking at the Grace M701 modular audio interface, and man, it's a pretty crazy thing.
Yeah, it is a new piece of our puzzle over here, as obviously you can see from our rack of interfaces. We have a lot of things going on in this specific room. Been a big fan of the Grace products for a lot of years. Super excited when I heard about the 701 and its flexibility and its capabilities, and we've had it integrated into our system here now for a couple of months and been super impressed by its performance.
Awesome. I remember being introduced to it at the NAMM show back in January. Michael and Eb and Grace gave me a tour. And what's amazing about this is just, is there anything it can't connect to?
So far, no. I mean, and just to give you a little insight into how we're using it, is it just as a Dante interface for our output to our speakers in our Atmos system right now. And sonically, I have preferred it over a number of other interfaces I've tried. So it kind of won a little bit of a shootout we did. And so, but integration into that system with their GraceNet software and the ease of connection of that, it was like a plug and play kind of thing, which a lot of times interfaces of this caliber become like this really sort of long drawn out process, right? So we have a box here that does a lot more than what we're using it for right now, but the configuration of ours is 32 analog inputs and outputs, Dante, HDX, AES, Toslink, and so there's a whole bunch of connectivity. You can go in and out, and so the flexibility of it has been I kind of have a new plan on how I want to route some stuff, so I haven't quite gotten into the final configuration of it, but sonically I've been so pleased that it's kind of like I need to start figuring how to use this more often and in a larger scope in this room. So
that's the beauty of this, is that it's so modular. There are 8 slots on the back for analog I/O, and you can have either 8-channel connections or 4-channel mic preamp cards that go into those slots, and so you can configure exactly what you need. Like you mentioned, you have 32 going on there. You've also got 3 slots for digital connections as well, and then all of the interconnectivity stuff there, including USB, which I don't think you mentioned there, but you can also do USB with this as well.
Yes.
And the whole thing can be routed. There's a latency-free or low latency monitor mixer in here. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, we just got the new firmware in on this, and the QMix system is like super easy to integrate, and so having all of these features at your fingertips with the easy use and recallability and stuff like that, like it just sort of now is like a superior contender in a lot of the realms where you're using like a flexible, configurable interface like this. And we've been really impressed by it, and the microphone preamps as well. Like just talking about those cards for a second, we use the 8-channel mic preamp in Studio A every session it gets used, and so huge fans of their like super clean, transparent, very musical microphone preamplifiers that you can get in here with the remote control software. They also have access to control the remote software for the microphone preamps through the same GUI. So it's like having the ability to kind of control those things is pretty awesome.
All from just one place, right?
Yeah.
And that's such an important point, because Evan and Michael have talked about that the converter chips and things, they're all good at this point. What really makes the difference with an audio interface or with a digitally controlled preamp or any of those kind of things is really the analog design. And it's both the surrounding analog electronics, it's the power supply, it's the whole thing that really makes a difference. And that's where Grace comes from, is that fantastic analog design. But they've been doing the digital stuff for 25 years now, I think, something like that.
Yeah, it's like, I think they come from a bit of a hi-fi background in some of their design stuff early on, and it really feels and looks like I opened the unit up and we got it. It's like really beautifully built inside, but the sonic performance of it is like next to none. And that's something that, we come to expect from the Grace products, and why they keep getting used, and why we were so excited when this showed up and started to use it. So
right. So you mentioned you're using this basically as your Atmos output. You're in the room here. You've got a full PMC complement of speakers. Fantastic room to work in. I know you've been doing a lot of immersive mixing.
We've kind of messed around with a few different interface outputs. We have tried a bunch of different manufacturers like D to A converters, and when we have 14 channels of speakers, it becomes quite a bit noticeable when you change your D to A complement. There's things that happen sonically from an imaging standpoint, and so plugging in the 701 was like all of a sudden it just felt a little bit more together. And so when you have the tuning and calibration in the Dolby systems, trying to get that to play and work in a really effective way. That final stage, I think, is a really critical thing. And so it's been quite apparent on how that's improved our listening experience. And yes, we've been doing tons of work out of this room. I think we're getting close to having our 500th Atmos mix released out of this space. And so, some of the bigger projects lately have been, did some stuff with the Dolby brothers, did some stuff with Five Finger Death Punch, Collective Soul. We work with this label called Ghostly International and do almost all of their releases. So we're delivering, tens, 20, 30, 40, sometimes Atmos mixes in a week, depending on how we've been sort of processing them. So we're doing a lot of work out of here, and this makes our job even easier. So.
Yeah. I think one of the things we should talk about with this is that it's scalable. So it really is, I think at its core, it's aimed at the commercial, it's aimed at the professional studio, somebody like yourself who's turning a lot of projects really quickly and trying to do the highest quality possible work. But you can scale this. I mean, it's going to be great in a home studio. You can certainly configure it. And again, with all those connectivity options, USB, Toslink, AES, Dante you mentioned, and all of the others, it'll work in pretty much any situation you can think of.
Right, and that's something I think when you're getting into this level of product, it's nice to be able to start with a couple components and grow into something larger. And obviously this, with its sort of scalable, input and output structure and digital connectivity, you can get the box kind of in its base components and kind of get up to speed with this level of conversion and circuitry, and get your foot in the door for a reasonable investment, but also not like a super expensive piece of equipment that you're paying for parts that you don't need, which is kind of the cool thing.
Yeah, very good point. And then you can scale it up as your needs change or things grow to where you're doing all of the immersive things or whatever your trajectory is.
Yeah.
Also for massive input capture as well, because it'll do up to 64 channels of analog capture on the input. And so if you're tracking orchestras or you're doing large sessions, it's going to be valuable for that too.
Yeah, and that's something in a box this size with that kind of capacity. There are other products that have limited connectivity, or you max out in in a frame for that the Grace, if you load up all of those inputs, then you have a massive capture device, which is, really helpful for location recording, mobile recording, live concerts, and things like that. In Studio A here at Sweetwater Studios, our Pro Tools rig is 64 inputs. And so we get there on sessions quite often where we're like, oh, we ran out of holes again. But it's like when you have a large tracking session, that channel count is really important. So having a box that can do that in a small footprint is quite powerful.
Two rack spaces for all that power and all that connectivity. Very cool.
And the controls on the front allow me to get to effectively everything I need to, besides some of the more in-depth configuration stuff that you get to through the GraceNet. But originally I just got this thing set up and running from the front panel, the knob, all the the controls on there really allow for setup and configuration without having to get everything talking to a computer and stuff like that, which is also pretty cool to just kind of have the ability to go through, okay, cool, I got this going, I'm on a location, it's like you're trying to get some stuff done. Or in a studio like this where connecting another thing to the computer sometimes becomes tricky, that workflow on the front is really great.
So. Yeah, having access to everything right from the front panel. So it's great to have the computer and to run it with GraceNet, but also nice to be able to just reach out and grab a control when you need
it. Great knob feel on the Grace Design products. And so one of these to just get through all of your stuff is quite awesome.
Very cool. Well, thanks for taking the time to tell us about your experience with the M701. Super cool interface.
Thank you.
You bet. And thank you for joining us today. We're in Studio B here at Sweetwater with Sean Deely, our chief engineer. If you want more information on the M701 Modular or any of Grace's products, head over to sweetwater.com, or as I highly recommend every time we talk to your Sweetwater sales engineer, because they've got all the information. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.